One, I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also want to acknowledge all the Akyam who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. And shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. This is Shabai from the GMS Denver camp. And through the Spirit, I'm going in on Ezekiel 23. It says, the word of Yahweh Bashem Yoshai came again unto me, saying, Son of man, there were two women, the daughters of one mother. All right, and the daughter of one mother, the mother being Israel, the two daughters. This is speaking about two women, but it's actually metaphorically speaking about the northern and southern kingdom. Okay, it says they committed whoredoms in Egypt. They committed whoredoms in their youth. There were their breasts pressed. And they bruised the teats of their virginity. All right, speaking about these two women, Aholah and Aholiba, which, we know through the Spirit, it's actually, talking about northern and southern kingdom. Aholah being the northern kingdom and Aholiba being the southern kingdom. Okay, the names of them were Aholah the elder and Aholiba her sister, and they were mine, and they bare sons and daughters. Thus were their names. Samaria is Aholah, and Jerusalem Aholiba. So it tells you in verse 4 that it is actually talking about the northern and southern kingdom. Samaria being the northern kingdom, that's where the northern kingdom dwelt. And Jerusalem, that's where the southern kingdom remained. Okay. So when you go into these names, Aholiba, the second name for Jerusalem, it means woman of the tent, or the tent is in her. Right? So, and that's that. That's how these women are. Like even in Babylon, you have these women who they may be married to a husband, they have a house and whatnot, and then they divorce their husbands, and they go get a single bedroom apartment, and while the name Ohola, it means her own tent. So one means the tent is in her, and the other one means her own tent. And that's what these women do. They'll leave their husband. They may have the whole picket fence, the house, and they'll leave all that, the children. They'll leave all that to go be a whore and go get a 1-bedroom apartment, right? And that's why it's called her own tent here. And then the other name was called the tent is in her. So, they get that their own tent, and then what they do, they commit whoredoms, And again, this is actually talking about the whole, collectively the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. So let's read verse 5. Aholah played the harlot when she was mine, and she doted on her lovers, on the Assyrians, her neighbors. All right. So remember, Aholah represented the northern kingdom, but yet, she had desire for the Assyrians, Or you can fast forward to today, these women, they are, they're playing the harlot. Not only, and really, because you got to understand, you had our people scattered, and you had our men who were, in this time calling themselves Assyrians, and just like now you have our men calling themselves Americans, which are the Babylonians, right? The modern Babylonian, the daughter of Babylon, the inhabitants of the daughter of Babylon. So you got men and women who both, they assimilate, and they take on the mindset of their captors. or I'm sorry, the people, they're the captors, but they're the nations that oppress us, the nations that have us in captivity, our people take on their mindsets and they become just like them. And that's nothing different here in Ezekiel 23. It says, she doted on her lovers, on the Assyrians, her neighbors. And it could be, straight up just dealing with the heathen men. When you go into that word doted, it means extremely fond or excessive attention or love. And that's what it is, man. These women, they're extremely fond of wickedness, and our women, they'll you got a lot of Israelite women who they'll go after heathen men, for various reasons, right? And they take on their heathen men customs and shit. You might see Eve with Esau, or you see a Northern Kingdom girl woman with Esau, and we know in the spirit how wicked that is, right? But these women, they don't know. They have no clue, Verse 6, it says, which were clothed with blue, captains and rulers, all of them desiring desirable young men, horsemen riding upon horses. Right? Thus she committed her whoredoms with them, with all them that were the chosen men of Assyria, and with all on whom she doted, with all their idols she defiled herself. And it's the same thing now, in Babylon. You have women, they'll go, they go off with these Babylonian men, or you could say Americanized men, which it could be even a Jake, right? It could be a Jake who's just in the mindset of a Babylonian, or he's got the mindset of Esau, And then they'll start, let's start going to church. And then what do? They go to the pagan Christian church. And this is our people going off, not remembering their first love, which our first love is this truth, okay? Our first love is Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Let's see if I can find a verse. Let's go to Revelation 2:4-5. It says, nevertheless, I have somewhat against thee, because thou hast left thy first love. You see that? And thy first love is this truth. All right, our people, when they're in their right mindset, they're with. This is, your remembrance. You're coming back to your first love. You're coming back into the true knowledge, the true powers, Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai. Okay, you're not dealing with false idols or false gods, but you're actually dealing with the first love. That's how it's meant to be, And really, that because sex is marriage. So when you have, you women, what you don't understand about these scriptures and about the ways of the Most High, Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai, you don't understand that the first man you slept with, that's technically and spiritually, according to the scriptures, that's your husband. Is that first man who popped you, who popped your cherry. But you've been raised up in Babylon, where you've been given all the liberty to be a whore and become you just move with move as a harlot. But let's keep reading. And you defile yourself when you do that, you women. And I know it's a hard pill to swallow for women listening to this lesson. You don't want to admit, or you don't want to conform to the fact that you're carrying yourself as a whore according to the Holy Scriptures. And that's why a lot of these women, they can't receive the truth. because they've been given so much liberty. You know, they've been given the green pass to the green light to be whores. So why would you hearken unto the scripture? You know. And it says, then she committed her whoredoms with them, with all them that were chosen men of Assyria, with all on whom she doted, with all their idols she defiled herself. Right. And that was verse 7. And that's what our women do. They defile in themselves. And remember, this is talking collectively as it's actually talking about northern and southern kingdom. So it's also you men, right? You so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans who are the 12 tribes who make up the northern and southern kingdom Israel. Okay? You're committing whoredom with your neighbors, which in ancient times, Assyria, Edom, Moab, these were all our heathen neighbors. All right, verse 8. Neither left she her whoredoms brought from Egypt. Right? So you even bring baggage. Everywhere you dwell, you Israelites, you commit whoredom. Whether it was Egypt, whether it was Assyria, whether it's, Greek, Rome, now America, you got your baggage, spiritual whores. Just like a real woman, who's a whore, who's a harlot, whose body count is high, she always comes with baggage. Okay? It says, for in her youth they lay with her, and they bruised the breast of her virginity and poured their whoredom upon her. Right? So just defile the woman, And even women, in the physical, like a literal woman, when she's a whore, her body starts to break down and shit, Got these women with the cellulitis, or women who have had babies from multiple fathers and this and that. Hey, guess what? Their titties get all fucked up. They're all sagged out, stretch marks. That's basically the same thing this is, but it's comparing it to collectively as the northern and the southern kingdom. Verse 9, wherefore I have delivered her into the hand of her lovers, into the hand of the Assyrians upon whom she doted. Right, so our people, that's why this is talking about the whole both northern and southern kingdom, because our people went into captivity under the Assyrians. Okay, and matter of fact, the northern kingdom, this is when they came to the Americas while they were under the Assyrians in captivity. Right, tells you that in let's grab that real quick. What is it? 2nd Ezra 13, around the 41st verse. Yeah, let's read 40. 2nd Ezra 13 and 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea, which is Hosea, the king, whom Salmanassar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might there keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land. All right, so that's the northern kingdom leaving Assyria, because they led away they were led away into captivity again, under the Assyrians, which Salmanassar was the king at that time. Ezekiel 23. And then that word doted, let me read wherefore, verse 9. Wherefore I have delivered her into the hand of her lovers, into the hand of the Assyrians upon whom she doted. So our people were basically, in love with their heathen counterparts. They wanted to be like the Assyrians. Instead of, remaining faithful to the first love, Yahweh Bashem Yoshai, and, representing as Israelites, our people, they want to be the Assyrians, they want to be the Egyptians, they want to be the Romans, they want to be the Americans. You see? So Yahweh Bashem Yoshai, hey, you want to get down with the heathen? He's going to let the heathen take you, put you in captivity, destroy you mentally, physically, spiritually. You see? Verse 10. These discovered her nakedness. They took her sons and her daughters and slew her with the sword, and she became famous among women, for they had executed judgment upon her. Right? Talking about the Assyrians. They had their way with the Israelites, took us into captivity. Because why? Because our people were adulterous people, an adulterous bunch, an adulterous generation, right? Yahushua spoke about that. Verse 11, and when her sister Aholibah saw this, she was more corrupt in her inordinate love than she, and her whoredoms more than her sister in her whoredoms. So this is talking about the southern kingdom. So the southern kingdom went off even worse, it says here. All right? Because the southern kingdom, that's the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi collectively, but it's Judah, right? The head tribe. So you're going to be more accountable as the head tribe, Judah, right? That's why the southern kingdom, the so-called black, so-called black, well, I won't say tribe because all the tribes were dark-skinned at one point, but basically there's those three tribes have caught in the most hell of all the tribes, because when you're in the position of a leadership, and you fail, you're gonna catch more hell than the people who you're leading. And in this example, it would be the other tribes, all the other tribes, the 10 tribes that left to the Americas that we just read about in 2nd Esdras, and also even more than Benjamin and Levi, Judah being held the most accountable because they're the head tribe of Israel. Verse 12, she doted upon the Assyrians, her neighbors, captains, and rulers, clothed most gorgeously, horsemen riding upon horses, all of them desirable young men. Right, and again, that word doted, it means extremely fond or excessive attention or love. So that's how our people are. They're extremely fond of being a Babylonian, of being an Assyrian, of being an Egyptian, of being a Roman throughout the generations. Verse 13, instead of remaining, keeping it real to who they truly are, the Israelites. So Yahweh gives you away to your desires. You don't want to be an Israelite? Guess what? The Lord's gonna give you away to the Babylonians. You're gonna die like a Babylonian. 13. Then I saw that she was defiled, that they took both one away, and that she increased her whoredoms. For when she saw men portrayed upon the wall, the images of the Chaldeans portrayed with vermilion, right? And I think vermilion is like if I remember right, it's like a red stone. Let me look it up. A red. Let's see. Slovakia. Okay. Okay, yeah, I was right. Vermilion, a brilliant red pigment made from mercury. Okay. Yeah, it's like it says in the Bible, vermilion is listed as a pigment that was used in for painting buildings during the reign of, well, I'm not going to get into all that, but it's basically a pigment or like a dye used for painting it was red. So, like paintings on walls. It says here that these women desired these men that they saw on the paintings and whatnot. Verse 15, girded with girdles upon their loins, exceeding in dyed attire upon their heads, all of them princes to look to, after the manner of the Babylonians of Chaldea and the land of their nativity. Right. So they was looking up to, they desired men of Babylon, men of Chaldea, which it goes into witchcraft and sorcery, Assyrian men, all like, lovers who are not, and even if you're an Israelite scattered in one of these places and you're taking on the mindset of these heathen, and these women would desire you, like now you take one of these celebrities, and these women, if they desire these celebrities, even if they're Jake, well, 99% of these celebrities are caught up in the mindset of Babylon, and they don't have the mindset of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. So either way, these women would be desiring, men who are going off, wicked men. Verse 16, and as soon as she saw them with her eyes, she doted upon them and sent messengers unto them into Chaldea. And the Babylonians came to her into the bed of love, and they defiled her with their whoredom. And she was polluted with them, and her mind was alienated from them. Right. And what it is our people. Again, this is not just talking about two women. This is talking about the northern and southern kingdom collectively, going into, spiritual whoredom, going off. And your mind is alienated. Alienated from what? Alienated from the truth. Alienated from Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai. You start to take on the customs of the heathen, And Yahweh, what he's saying, Jeremiah 10. Here, Jeremiah 10:1, it says, hear ye the word which Yahweh Bashem Yahushai speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, learn not the way of the heathen, And that's the point right there. But, as an Israelite, you're not supposed to learn the ways of the heathen. You're not supposed to dote and admire and give excessive attention or love and be extremely fond of the heathen, the ways of the heathen. But our people, being spiritually whores, they constantly do that. That's why the Lord has set up his prophets, he set up his prophets to, put you in your right mindset, right? Ezekiel 23, and where am I at? 18. So she discovered her whoredoms and discovered her nakedness. Then my mind was alienated from her, like as my mind was alienated from her sister. Right, and the Most High Yahweh speaking through Ezekiel, and when it says here, discovered her nakedness, that's the shame. When you're not in the truth, when you're acting and moving like a heathen, when you're desiring to be the heathen, you're desiring the men who are heathen or in the heathen mindset, That's a shameful thing. In verse 19, yet she multiplied her whoredoms in calling to remembrance the days of her youth, wherein she had played the harlot in the land of Egypt. So not only are you a whore in Assyria, you also remembering your whoredom from Egypt. And fast forward to today, you being a whore here in Babylon, in America. If you have an American mindset, the same as these Americans, well, guess what? You're playing the whore. Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is not for this place. He's not for the way this place moves. There's tons of wickedness, adultery, and all kind of wickedness is being put forth, here in Babylon, America. The vibrations of this place is wicked as hell. You see? It says, for she doted upon their paramours, whose flesh is as the flesh of asses, and whose issue is like the issue of horses. All right, and let me get that scripture in the. Let's see, just so because it is what you think it says. It's talking about these women desiring men whose flesh is as the flesh of asses. And let me just break it down for you. I'll read it in the. Oops, let me see. My bad. Let's go to the NIV, what it says. Let me see what it says. Ezekiel 23 and 20. Let me see. Let's see, Ezekiel 23 and verse 20 in the NLT. It says, this is what it says in Ezekiel 23 and 20. It says, she lusted after her lovers with genitals as large as a donkey's and emissions like those of a horse. So you get the point, all right? These women and again, it's not just the women, it's basically dealing with the wickedness of the whole northern and southern kingdom. Comparing it to a woman lusting after a man whose genital is like a donkey's, or a issue who's like the issue of a horse. Like discharge of a horse. Another word for issue is discharge. So you get the point. It's only 8:18 in the morning, and I'm reading about this. You see, so you can see what it is. All right, so let's keep reading. Verse 21. Thus thou callest to remembrance the lewdness of thy youth, in bruising thy teats by the Egyptians for the paps of thy youth. Therefore, O Oholibah, thus saith Yahweh the Most High, behold, I will raise up thy lovers against thee, from whom thy mind is alienated, and I will bring them against thee on every side. And, you look into this history, that's what happened. Our people went into captivity under all these heathen nations. Our people went to, slavery, all the way up until now, still in slavery. Let's see. I'm going to just kind of skip down just for time's sake here. You could go read the whole chapter if you want, but let's see. Let's read 35. It says, Ezekiel 23 and 35, it says, therefore thus saith Yahweh, the Bashem Yahushai, the power, because thou hast forgotten me and cast me behind thy back, therefore bear thou also thy lewdness and thy whoredoms. Yahweh said moreover unto me, son of man, wilt thou judge Oholah and Oholibah? Declare unto them their abominations. So this is our job. This is our as the prophets of Yahweh Bashem Yoshai, we're supposed to point out your abominations, point out your sin, point out your transgressions. We're supposed to lift our voice up like a trumpet. That's what we do on the street corners, and call you out on your wickedness. This is the lot of a prophet, of a teacher, right? Tells you that in let's see, why am I going blank? Let me see. Is it Isaiah 58? It says, Isaiah 58, cry aloud, spare not, lift up the voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sins. You see? And then we'll go back to Ezekiel 23 and jumping down to 44, and I'll read from that down. It says, yet they went in unto her as they go unto a woman that playeth the harlot. So went they in unto Aholah and Aholibah, the lewd women. It says, and the righteous men, they shall judge them after the manner of adulteresses, and after the manner of women that shed blood, because they are adulteresses, and blood is in their hands. Right. So if we don't warn you Israelites, you people, the blood is on our hands, and we're your blood is our responsibility. So it's our responsibility to warn the Israelites about this knowledge, about this truth. Warn them from Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, because judgment is coming. If we just gathered all this wisdom, gathered all this oil, gathered all this knowledge, and we just kept it to ourselves, the blood would be upon our own hands. But we're commanded to call you out on your wickedness, call you out on your sin, call you out on your transgressions. And then we take the blood off our hands by doing that. Talks about that, and I believe it's Ezekiel 3, or maybe it's 33. I always get those two mixed up. But by preaching this word, we're here, taking the blood off our hands. Because when the judgment comes, we're not going to be accountable for your blood, because we warned you. Verse 46, it says, for thus saith Yahweh the Most High, I will bring up a company upon them, and will give them to be removed and spoiled. And this was in the ancient times. These prophecies came to pass, where you were spoiled by the heathen. The heathen overtook you. The heathen devoured you, and now they're still devouring you. And you be raised up in captivity, and you're devoured by their philosophies, devoured by their belief systems, devoured by everything that Babylon offers you, and you're in such a dead state you don't even realize you're being devoured. Verse 47, and the company shall stone them with stones, and dispatch them with their swords, and they shall slay their sons and their daughters, and burn up their houses with fire. Right. And that's going to happen on another level when Babylon gets destroyed with fire. Verse 48, it says, thus will I cause lewdness to cease out of the land, that all women may be taught not to do after your lewdness. Right, and that's not going to happen until, there's a great humbling, Jacob's trouble, and then more so during the judgment of World War III, which Yahweh Bashem Moshe is going to bring on all you 2/3 and you heathen. And they shall recompense your lewdness upon you, and ye shall bear the sins of your idols, and ye shall know that I am Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, the power. So no one's going to question in that day who the true God is, who the true powers of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. who the true servants are. No one's going to question in that day. Everybody's going to know. But you're going to have to learn it by pain, all right? So, I hope the lesson was edifying. I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also want to acknowledge Allah who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom to the elect. Shalom.